This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
With Amex Gold, you can experience the gold standard. You get access to exceptional dining, plus 4 times membership rewards points on eligible dining purchases. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Cap applies. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
Welcome to the after party. Ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the after party. The show after the show. Learn a little something new. Join us for the ride. Chris and Chris want all of you to know. The after party's where it's at. The show after the show.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the after party. And we're joined today by a special guest, the co-host of One Hit Thunder, Mr. Matt Kelly. Matt, how are you?
Hey, Chris, it's so good to be here. And you've been a regular guest on our show, so it's very excited to cross the streams, for lack of a better term.
I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. Thanks for thanks for being here. And we're also joined by Mr. Chris Fafalios. So what's going on, Chris?
It's a true after party today. We have 3 people. I don't know if we've ever had a guest on the after party before. Matt listens. Matt's one of those people, I'm pretty sure, he's told me, that listens to the after party before the regular show.
All
like
right.
the pre-party.
Oh, yeah. It's the pre-party for me. Unless you're covering like one of my all-time favorite songs and the after party can wait and I need to hear what, the Jim Blossom said about writing till I hear it from you or whatever. Then I got to dive in. But
Nice. Matt, you actually brought the theme for today's episode. You suggested it, and I thought it was a pretty good idea.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about opening tracks on 90s albums, and when I get to one of my picks, I'll tell you when the idea came to me, because it was while I was at a concert.
Nice.
And you say when you get to one of your picks, Matt, you have like 91, right?
As we're talking, I've been trimming it.
Okay. Because that's what I wanted to start off with, guys, is that this was extremely difficult. There's so many great records in the 90s. However, I was a little surprised when I went back and looked at some of my favorite records and was like, I don't think this is the best track to lead the record off. I was surprised more so than I was not. But I narrowed it down to 5, and this could change tomorrow, but these were my 5 for today.
Right. Matt, you're our guest today. Do you want to start us with what you have as number 5 as best first track on an album of the 90s?
Yeah. No, all right. So here we go. When I texted Chris, I was at the Green Day concert. They're doing their big stadium tour, and it was actually in the middle of Smashing Pumpkins set because they got to the song Churub Rock, which is the opening track of Siamese Dream. And I found myself thinking, this might be one of the best opening tracks of all of the 90s. I think it's the best track on the album, but also just like a good opening track sets the whole tone for the rest of the record. And I think that that slow build, right? You've got that drum beat that kicks off the song, and then the rest of the band starts kicking in. And then it's just this soaring ambient guitar piece that starts playing before Corgan's vocals even come into play. And it for a band that I feel got kind of trashed constantly for riding the coattails of the other grunge bands, this song really was a shot in the air of no, they're on a whole different level than what those guys in Seattle are doing. They're blending shoegaze and pop and rock and folk music all into this hodgepodge of their own unique sound. No one sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins. And I think this is the song that really sets the tone for how different they were.
I gotta say something, Matt. First of all, great choice. I never ever thought they had really anything to do with grunge except they came in that time period.
Yeah.
I really thought they were always kind of on their own trip, like all the stuff you said mixed with like Bowie and some stuff later that Billy was getting into with the fashion and whatnot. But good call there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'm not even a big Smashing Pumpkins guy, but I agree that song rocks. That's a great first track. Chris, what do you got to start us off at number 5?
Well, again, this list could change at any moment, any given day. But I went chronologically by year here. So 1990. This song to me really kind of predated the next song in terms of the next song that I picked, and I don't want to give it away, in terms of what defines the 90s. I think people forget about this band, because they did come out in the 80s, but Stop by Jane's Addiction off Ritual de la Habitual.
Yeah.
Here we go!
That track, to this day, I don't know of any other band that sounds like it. The delays on Perry's voice they were using, Dave Jordan, his recording technique. It wasn't the 80s anymore. We knew that when we heard Stop.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I think that's the best Jane's Addiction song.
It's definitely pretty high up there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in terms of band singles, a lot of times those aren't our favorite songs, especially as hardcore fans. And as far as the single goes, it's one of their best songs. What do you got, Chris?
I know we're going to start having, at least Matt and I don't know what Chris could be a wild card here because he listens to some different music, some metal and stuff, but I know Matt and I are going to have some similar choices probably along the way here. Number 5, I'm sure would be a lot of people's number 1. But I put Smells Like Teen Spirit at number 5 for me, just from a personal standpoint. I love it, but I like other songs on the album more. But man, oh man, that's hard to beat as an opening track.
You know what's funny is that wouldn't have been my Nirvana opening track that I would have went with. I think that it's the more important one, but I think personally Serve the Servants on In Utero, I think that the opening line of Serve the Servants sums up the entire early 90s in a single lyric.
Teenage angst has paid off well.
Yeah, teenage angst has paid off well, and now I'm bored and old. There's something about that opening line where I'm just like, this might be the best thing. I think especially for like what Kurt could have said at that time. It's like such a middle finger to the people who'd been spending too much time interpreting songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit. But I think across the board, Nirvana just knew how to have an opening track on every one of their releases.
Let's not pretend Serve the Servants is a better opening track than Smells Like Teen Spirit. Come on. It's good, but let's not pretend. What do you got at number 4?
We should have some hip-hop represented on this list. And I'm torn between 2 rap openings. And I think I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with Bring the Ruckus by Wu-Tang.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Bring the motherfucking ruckus.
Ghostface, catch the blast of a hype burst. My Glock burst, leaving a hearse. I did worse. I come rough, tough like an elephant tusk. Your head rush, fly like Egyptian musk. Oh shit, Wu-Tang Clan sparked the wicks.
It's such a strange way to start the album, right? Like, you just kind of hear people kind of laughing, and then they just keep chanting Tiger Style, and you're like, what is this? And then you get that grimy drum beat kicking in, and you're like, this is different than any other music that's coming out right now. Like, it was the punk rock version of hip hop because it was just so DIY, and like, they're not even completely perfectly on beat, but that's what makes it so good. Like, and it sets the tone for all of the 36 Chambers record. Like, you hear that and you're just like, all right, I'm in for this ride for the next hour. So I think that might be the best hip-hop opening track of the 90s.
That's a good one. It's pretty raw. Good choice, man. Chris, what
They
do
like
you got
it
at number
raw,
4?
Chris.
Yeah, we do like it raw.
Number 4. Well, Chris, I again went in order here, and as I was talking about Jane's before, I said that this next song, and I went with Teen Spirit too.
Okay.
For 1991, I didn't go all 10 years. I just picked 5 here, but it just so happened 90 and now 91. Teen Spirit. What else is there to say about the song? We've talked about it before. People have talked about it. I was a little older than you guys. I was already in college when that song hit. The record came out 3 days before my 18th birthday. So I was at University of Florida, and you guys know, everyone knows what that song did to the landscape, but to be at that age and it literally was overnight. Can't state enough how important that was. And I think there was a number of songs on that record that could have opened the record. I think Territorial Pissings is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's just rips your head off. But I don't know. There's something about that jangly guitar at the top, and when the band kicks in, it's just undeniable. Chris, what's next for you?
Hey, number 4, I went with a punk rock 90s classic. I'm a bass player, so I appreciate Rancid's Maxwell Murder. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Not only is it a rockin' song, but once that bass solo happens, that might be my favorite bass solo of all time. It is so good, and I think that's a perfect. I could have seen that being higher on my list, but I have some killer ones coming up. But I had to go with Rancid there.
As a man who also loves a good bass line, it really sucks that Primus has no good opening tracks to any of their albums.
I actually did look at a couple of Primus records, and I agree with you.
I'm like, dude, Les Claypool does not know how to start a record. Chris, I'm going to pick a song that your band has covered. We're bouncing off of Nirvana, I feel like another song that's truly kind of anthemic and really sets the mood for the whole listening experience. And it was the lead single off the album, Beck, Loser.
Oh.
That, slightly out of tune, weird guitar lick. You're just like, what am I about to get into? And then you've got this awkward, nonsensical white guy rapping before you get to this hypnotic chorus of I'm a Loser, Baby. And then you dive into Mellow Gold, and that record is fascinating because Loser captures both elements of it, right? Half of that album is this weird experimental music with a hip hop vibe to it, and the other half is this folky, almost out of tune guitar music, and you get both of those elements to kick off the entire record. It took me a long time to like the rest of Mellow Gold. Now I love it, but Loser is still a killer opening to that whole record.
It's a weird album. It's a rough listen at some parts, but it's great. Chris, what do you got at number 3?
All right, number 3, and I'll preface this with saying that I like the songs that I like from this band. I don't think that their output, I think 20% of their catalog is good, and the rest of it, I don't want to call them overrated, but I'm not a huge fan. The songs that I do love, I think, are fantastic. From 1994, the Rick Ocasek produced album by Weezer, and the song My Name is Jonas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Jonas. I'm carrying the wheel. Thanks for all you've shown us. This is how we feel.
That song, we tend to forget, go back to that time period. First of all, I don't think there was a more right producer than Rick Ocasek for the project. I think he got the band completely. But, the 90s were weird. You could be weird, whatever. But go and listen to that song. It's like, how did this guy write this? It's bizarre, but it somehow hooks you in and makes you want to listen to this power pop masterpiece that they put out. And I know people love Pinkerton, whatever. I think the first record's their best record. I'll always say that. And My Name is Jonas is awesome.
Blue Album is my favorite too.
Same.
My Name is Jonas. That is a perfect opening song. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And number 3, I got kind of a different one. You know it's me. And so you know I had to do, geez, I could have done Human Behavior from Debut. I could have done Hunter from Homogenic. But I went with what I think is the most rockin' Björk song. Army of Me is the opening track on Post.
And if you complain once more, you be done. I'm lovely. And if you complain once more, you be done. I'm lovely.
That song is nuts.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly hard rockin' song. My friend Paul explained to me some musicality things about like the mode that song is written in, how little songs have been written in that mode that it's in. And I was like, that's interesting. I wouldn't have picked up on that. But man, I love that song.
And man, when you talk about modes, we got into it a little bit when we had Kip Winger on. They Headed for Heartbreak. That's something that's out of my vocabulary. I started getting into modes, and I've never written that way. I don't really understand it. Do you understand it, Chris? Like, I mean, I understand the general concept, but I wouldn't know how to compose a piece in a certain mode.
I understand the general concept. Talking to someone like Paul, who is very classically trained musician, but I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, I wrote this song in this mode or that. There's certain ones I could pick out, you know, especially right after Paul has explained it to me. But yeah, it's a little bit of a blind spot for me too.
I have a hard enough time writing songs that aren't in suck mode. So
Hey, if you're enjoying this sneak preview episode of the After Party, make sure you head over to chrisdemakes.com and sign up for the supporting cast. Not only will you get a new episode of the After Party every week, but you'll also gain access to a huge back catalog of hundreds of past episodes. Plus, your support allows us to keep making Chris DeMakes a podcast. So if you want more deep dives into music, behind-the-scenes stories, and extra laughs, join the supporting cast today. And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Sound familiar? Loud, persistent snoring and gasping for air could be signs of sleep apnea. Visit philips.com/sleep quiz and take the symptoms quiz to find out if you or your partner may be at risk of sleep apnea. Start your journey to better sleep. Please note, the symptoms quiz is only for information gathering that you can share with your doctor.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop early holiday deals now.
Wishing for a body wash made with natural ingredients? Dr. Squatch has got you covered. Manly scents that make you irresistible, a thick lather that leaves your skin moisturized all day. No matter what you're looking for in a body wash, rest assured Dr. Squatch is your best bet. Pick up one today in store or at drsquatch.com. It's Dr. Squatch Body Wash for men who prefer natural.
Hey friends, have you been loving Chris DeMakes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
And now back to this very special sneak preview episode of the After Party. We're getting higher on the list now. Matt, what do you got at number 2?
Chris, it's funny. I realize now that you've covered this song actually works for about 5 different opening tracks from the 90s.
Dude, I was going to bring that up too. My band has covered, and not just covered it live, but actually done studio recordings of so many first tracks of the 90s. And
well,
which one are you going with? Because last time you said that, I was like, oh, here it comes. And I wasn't expecting you to say Loser. But yes, we did record Loser.
You did cover Loser, and you did cover this one. And, you know, the lead singer of this band heard it and said that you did a unique take on this one. I mean, this is an album that I think is beloved, especially listeners of Chris DeMakes. This has to be in their top 10 albums of all time. And the vibe of the entire record kicks off with Holiday.
Yeah.
That guitar slide into that song for Something to Write Home About by the Get Up Kids. Yeah. You're just, I mean, I think in that single, in like 30 seconds, you're realizing that this is a whole different production than 3 Minute Mile. This is a fully formed band that is ready to just like rock your faces off, and now they've got the production to back up their sounds, and holy shit, like Holiday is just such a great song. It's a great song, period.
Dude, you stole my number 1. That was my number 1. Spoiler alert.
You stole my number 1.
I think it's of the 90s or maybe ever. I think it's such an amazing first track. Yeah. And I love that we had Matt Pryor on to talk about writing that. Chris, we should maybe try to get Matt Pryor back on. The dude's wrote a lot of good songs.
He was on Pryor. He'll probably come back.
That's right.
I would love it. I loved having Matt on. He was awesome.
Yeah. What do you got at number 2, Chris?
Number 2, well, from 1998. And this band's a head scratcher on one hand, and on the other hand, you know it's all because of the lead singer that she unfortunately just couldn't get out of her own way. I think this band could have been a lot bigger. I think that they could still be out there playing festivals. Again, I think the person unfortunately couldn't get out of her own way. I think the opening track of this record's great. I listened to this record the other day, and it made me think of this, but it's from 1998. It's Hole, Celebrity Skin.
Oh, make me over. I'm all I wanna be. A walking study in demonology. Hey, so that you could make it. Yeah, now you really made it.
This was on my long list. This is a killer song.
That album is incredible. And I can't believe where she came from the previous record, Live Through This.
I was going to say, we brought up Billy Corgan. And you can feel the Billy Corganism in Celebrity Skin during the verses. Those verses feel like a Smashing Pumpkins verse.
Did she make a record after that? Did Hole, or was that it?
I think that may have been it, or if they did, it got zero press.
Or got shelved or something, yeah. I don't know. I think that that record just showed a different side. It was poppy. There was melody with it that I really liked. And Courtney at that time, too, she kind of looked like she had her act together. And the videos looked great. Yeah, that's my I guess number 2. Again, I didn't have an order here, but that's my next pick.
I just looked it up. They had one more album that came out 12 years later. So it was like she truly did. Like it was 1998, 2010 is when the follow-up record came out called Nobody's Daughter. And I think it was kind of just a push it out, and they broke up shortly after that.
And I'm surmising here. I have no idea what happened between 1999 when Hole stopped touring and when she put the next record out. Hopefully that's when she was raising her daughter and she just didn't want to do music and whatever. But I don't think it's that. My gut's telling me that she held herself back, and it stinks because I enjoyed them. Yeah,
that's a really good album. Like a really, really good album from front to back.
At my number 2, another song that Punchline has covered has a recorded cover of. This is actually the one I thought you were going to go with earlier. It's the first track on my favorite album of all time. It's Round Here from Counting Crows.
Normal when she's nervous. Right here, carving out our names. Round here, we all look the same.
And it's not even my favorite song on the album, but man, Chris, you talk about memories being attached to songs. Well, me and my band in our early days of touring would listen to this album front to back. Not only did we sing every word, a lot of times to like stay up at night on long drives, we also had like dances that went along with the lyrics. And I remember like, I would remember getting the part where I can't see nothing. When it got to that part, I remember us like banging on the dashboard and like hitting the windows, like flipping out, singing this song. I already spoiled my number 1 because Matt picked Holiday at number 1 just because it's more rockin', but I could have easily put Round Here at number 1 as well. But that's my number 2.
I actually looked up that record. I wanted to see what led it off. If any of the singles did. And I was surprised. If anything, I thought Mr. Jones would have let it off. Round Here is a little more mellow. I was really surprised that was the lead-off track from that album.
I always want to lead a record off, and I've had this conversation with my band, with like a rockin' song. But it's interesting bands that go the other way. I mean, Round Here eventually rocks, but it starts out so slow. Same thing with Jimmy Eat World Clarity. Starts with that Table for Glasses song, which is like the slowest song of all time. It's such an interesting choice if you're a rock band to start your album with like such a mellow song. And I think I'm too afraid to do that as a rock band, but sometimes I think it'd be a cool choice. Matt, what do you got at number 1? We're there.
My number 1 is a song we've covered on One Hit Thunder. And I was debating, like, I mean, can a one-hit wonder still count for this? And I think they can. And this is a song that I've said many times is in the competition for best song of the 90s, just period. The rest of this album is borderline a disappointment by how amazing this opening track is. I went with Space Hog in the Meantime.
Oh, yeah.
Got that little like keyboard piece, I guess you could say, that's looping, and then that killer bass line kicks in, and then the whole band kicks in on those woo-hoos, and it's just a magical 5-minute journey through this entire song, this killer chorus, and then it still ends iconically with this long, almost like the end of Layla piano piece that like wraps up the song while like all the other instruments are feedbacking in the background. It's just an incredible way to start a record, and I don't think they've ever matched a song as great as In the Meantime. It's the best song from the band. It's the best song in the album. And it's, in my vote, one of the best radio singles of the entire 90s. So
That wasn't even on my radar, but that is a great song. Chris, what do you got at number one?
All right. Number one from 1999. And I feel exactly about this band as I do Weezer. I like about 20% of their output, but the 20% I do like, I think, is incredible. Nobody sounds like them. No one has ever sounded like them or can sound like them. And I think their radio songs, much like Weezer, are their best songs, which is odd. I never think the singles are the best songs. I'm an album track deep cut guy. But I'm going with Testify from Battle of Los Angeles, Rage Against the Machine.
Ooh. Yeah. That song rocks. It's so funny because on my like honorable mentions, I had both Bomb Track and People of the Sun, and I wasn't even thinking about Testify because I don't think of that as being 90s for some reason. I think of it being 2000 because it's late 90s. You're right. That is the best Rage Against the Machine opening track.
Well, and you know, a lot of these too, this song in particular, that song lyrically sums up everything they're saying in Battle of Los Angeles. That's like, I got the bullhorn, I'm shouting from the top of the mountain, testify, and here's what it is, and this is what we're getting into for the next however many tracks that record is. So that's my my top pick, my number one, but not in any order. What do you got, Chris, to wrap?
Well,
what do you got to wrap this thing up?
Mine's Holiday from the Get Up Kids. It was already spoiled, but Matt, real quick before we close this out, what are some, I know you have a big long list there. Give us like 5 quick rapid fire honorable mentions.
I trimmed it down to 4 left.
Okay.
So for the ska heads out there, I don't think you get a better ska opening than Superman on Hang Ups.
That's a good one.
From Goldfinger, a song that's like quite literally an anthem to people now. Slept on band that people think is very folky and late. Well, not folky, but I don't think people realize how much the Goo Goo Dolls can rock, and kicking off A Boy Named Goo with Long Way Down is just a killer kickoff to that. REM, similarly, a band that I think people think of as way more chilled out than they can be. And What's the Frequency, Kenneth, kicking off Monster, which is like a very debated, controversial album in their catalog. People either absolutely love it or think it's the worst thing that they've ever recorded. I'm of the think it's the best thing they've ever done catalog. And then, Chris, you know I had to talk about my gal Sass, Damaged by Sass Jordan on the album Rats. One of my just favorite. I just love this like sludgy rock that she was doing in the 90s that no one seems to remember. And in a similar vein, Alanis Morissette, All I Really Want, kicking off Jagged Little Pill, is a really cool opening track to that record.
How is Sass Jordan not a household name?
I agree, Chris. I've brought up Sass Jordan way too many times on One Hit Thunder as one of my favorite albums artists.
One of the raspiest rock and roll, just kick you in the groin voices. It's just so good.
Couple
so
of sass heads over here.
We're sassholes.
Chris, I'm not sure if you saw this on Spotify. They just like a year ago released a live album that was the Rats tour. Like, it was the recordings from like 1996 when she was touring the album Rats. And I checked it out, and she sounds phenomenal live too. I'm like, what an awesome voice. I've argued that Sass Jordan sounds like what Wayne's Girlfriend's band sounds like in Wayne's World. Like, if you watch Wayne's World and you like the sound of Cassandra's band, listen to Sass Jordan.
And before we close this out, one last thing I got to say that was on my honorable mention. Another song that my band has covered. Important one to mention. Automatic is an awesome album opener. It gets me fired up. So good job on your opening track on Losing Streak, Chris.
Well, thanks, Chris, and thanks, Matt, for sitting in with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Matt, you want to do it again?
Yeah, we can do another one of these.
Hey there, Chris DeMakes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at ChrisDeMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalios and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at ChrisDeMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
What makes a song a smash on the charts? Is it talent? Luck? Timing? Well, as chart analyst and pop critic Chris Molanphy would say, it's all that and more. Chris hosts Hit Parade, a podcast from Slate, where he tells tales from more than a half-century of pop chart history. Through storytelling, trivia, and song snippets, he dissects how the artists you love or hate dominated the airwaves and shaped your memories forever. He's explained why Steely Dan is yacht rock and Jimmy Buffett isn't, why girl groups dominated the early 60s and boy bands the late 90s, how the members of disco band Chic wrote a bass line that launched hip-hop, how Taylor Swift pivoted from country to pop, how Sam Cooke invented soul and James Brown invented funk, and what exactly a one-hit wonder is, and whether the band Aha is a one-hit wonder. I think you'd really like it. So for tales of the hits from coast to coast, make sure to follow Hit Parade wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Steve Choi, host of the Musicians Guild podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. Within the four walls of the Musicians Guild, we'll be discussing the habits, idiosyncrasies, experiences, and general psychology of my friends and peers, all involved with music in various capacities. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.